I never thought the person I feared most would be my own brother. But there I was, lying on a stiff hospital bed, ribs bandaged so tightly I could barely breathe, each inhale slicing through my chest like glass. The white ceiling above me blurred in and out, not from the meds, but from the memory that wouldn't stop playing behind my eyes. Jake's face, twisted with something feral, unrecognizable. And then his fist. He did it. He actually did it. I'd replayed it in my head 100 times already, and each time I kept thinking, maybe it was an accident. Maybe he didn't mean to. But the look in his eyes said otherwise. It wasn't panic. It wasn't regret. It was rage. Controlled, deliberate rage. There were voices outside the curtain, hushed but not enough. A nurse murmured something about a detective. Another one whispered, "Her own brother, poor thing." I closed my eyes and tried to disappear. The curtain rustled. Someone cleared their throat. A shadow stretched across my blanket before I opened my eyes to a man in a cheap suit and tired eyes. "Ms. Callahan." His tone was soft, careful. Like I might break again if he wasn't gentle enough. "I'm Detective Harper. I'd like to ask you a few questions if you're up for it." I nodded or tried to. Even that slight motion made my side scream. My ribs were cracked, 3 of them. One nearly punctured my lung. I learned that when I coughed up blood in the ambulance. They'd pumped me full of morphine, but pain doesn't always listen to medicine. "I understand you're still recovering, but it's important we document your statement. Do you remember what happened?" Course I remembered. It was only last night. But how do you explain something like that? How do you look someone in the eye and say, "Yes, my brother beat me because I knew something I wasn't supposed to"? I hesitated, fingers clenching around the scratchy hospital blanket. "It was Jake," I said. My voice sounded foreign, dry and flat. "My brother." The detective didn't flinch, but he did write something down. "Can you tell me what led up to it?" I looked away, my eyes burning. What led up to it? The lies. The secrets. I saw her name flash behind my eyelids like a warning sign. Emily. That smile that never reached her eyes. That perfume that lingered long after she left the room. That perfectly painted innocence masking something rotten underneath. Emily. The girl who had my brother wrapped around her pretty little finger. The girl whose secrets I uncovered. The girl who disappeared the second Jake's fist met my ribs. What I knew. It wasn't just about Emily. It was about what she made him do. The detective waited patiently. My throat tightened. I opened my mouth, then closed it. What was I supposed to say? That my brother hurt me because I threatened to expose what his girlfriend had done. Because I refused to keep her secret. "Do you feel safe now?" he asked gently. I laughed, short, bitter, ugly. "Hurt. God, it hurt." "No," I whispered. "Not even a little." He nodded like he understood. But he didn't. He couldn't. Because what happened wasn't just violence, it was betrayal. My brother didn't just hurt me. He chose her. He chose her over me. And now I had to decide. Do I stay quiet and pretend none of this happened? Or do I tell the whole truth? And destroy what's left of our family? Jake and I used to be best friends. He was 2 years older, taller, louder, always getting into things before I did. But he never left me behind. Not once. When we were kids, he'd sneak me into the treehouse the neighborhood boys claimed was boys only, and dare anyone to say something about it. When I cried over school bullies, Jake was the one who biked across town just to stand outside my classroom and give them that look. The one that said, "Try it again and see what happens." He taught me how to climb fences, how to throw a punch, how to lie to our parents when it meant saving each other. He was loud and reckless, but he was mine. My protector. My big brother. So maybe that's why it hurt more. Why it still aches in a place no X-ray can find. Because the person who broke me was the same one who once swore to keep me safe. Changed when Emily came around. She showed up like a movie scene. Literally. Jake met her at a college party he shouldn't have even been at, according to him. She was standing in the rain, smoking a cigarette like she didn't care that her makeup was running or that her dress was soaked through. He said she looked like someone who belonged in black and white, like she stepped out of a noir film and into his world. He was obsessed before I even saw her. When I finally met her, she smiled like she already knew my name. Like she knew everything about me. That smile, God, it was perfect. Not forced. Not fake. Just too polished. Emily was the kind of girl who could get away with anything. She was stunning in a quiet way. Not the loud, look at me kind of beautiful. She didn't need to try. You just noticed her. Everyone did. Teachers adored her. My mom adored her. Even Dad, who barely spoke more than 10 words to any of Jake's exes, asked her about her dreams over dinner. She said she wanted to be a nurse. Or maybe a therapist. Or a writer. Changed every time someone asked. But she always made it sound like she cared. She always made you feel special. First I liked her too. Tried anyway. But then I started noticing things. Jake stopped hanging out with me like he used to. That wasn't weird, not at first. I figured it was just normal, he was in love or whatever. But it was more than that. He stopped laughing like he used to. His texts became short, sometimes hours or days between replies. When I asked if he was okay, he'd either snap or go quiet. And Emily, she started showing up at odd times. Once, I saw her in our driveway at 2 a.m., sitting in her car, just staring at our house. She didn't see me, or maybe she did and didn't care. When I told Jake the next morning, he said I was dreaming. Little things kept piling up. One day I caught a glimpse of Jake's phone screen. Just for a second. A message from Emily. Delete everything. I mean it. Asked him about it. He laughed too loud. Said it was a joke. Stupid meme. But his hands were shaking. Then came the night I heard them arguing in the basement. His voice was low, hers like ice. I crept halfway down the stairs and heard words like blackmail, not ready, and you promised. I stood there in the dark, heart pounding, trying to make sense of it. But the second I stepped down one more stair, the voices stopped. Silence, the kind that knows it's being watched. I told myself I was paranoid. I wanted to believe that. I really wanted to believe that. Because the alternative meant something was deeply wrong. Not just with Emily, or Jake. But deep down I think I already knew. The brother I once knew was slipping away. And in his place was someone I couldn't quite reach. Someone who looked me in the eyes and lied with ease. That's when I started writing everything down. Because I didn't know what was going on. But I knew whatever it was. It wasn't innocent. It started with the bruise. Barely there. Just a faint blue smudge beneath Emily's collarbone, half hidden by her sweater. I wouldn't have noticed if she hadn't stretched, if the neckline hadn't slipped for a second while she reached for her coffee mug. I froze when I saw it, blinking, hoping I was wrong. She saw me looking, pulled the sweater up fast, smiled too quickly. Yoga accident, she said casually. I suck at crow pose. Except Emily didn't do yoga. I knew that. She once told Jake it was a cult wrapped in spandex. She'd laughed when she said it. But now, she looked pale. Her hand trembled slightly as she brought the mug to her lips. I watched her pretend everything was normal. But something in me cracked open. After that day I paid closer attention. I wish I hadn't. One evening a few weeks later, I came home early from a friend's birthday party. My stomach had been off, and I just wanted my bed and tea. I didn't expect anyone to be home, but as I stepped through the front door, I heard voices, low, urgent. I followed them quietly to the den, where Jake usually played video games. The door was cracked just enough. Emily was on the phone, pacing in tight circles. No. He doesn't know yet, she whispered harshly. But if it gets out, I swear to God, it's on you. Silence. And more. Jake will handle it like last time. He always does. My stomach dropped. I backed away before she saw me, tiptoed to my room, shut the door as quietly as I could, and sat on the edge of my bed with my pulse thudding in my ears. Like last time. He always does. The words looped in my head until they made me nauseous. That night, I opened my laptop and started searching. I didn't even know what I was looking for. I Googled her name, her old school, the town she said she'd lived in. And then I tried her real last name, the one I'd seen printed on a prescription bottle she left behind once. Langford. Not Ellis like she told everyone. What I found chilled me. 2 years ago in her old hometown, a boy had gone missing. Senior. His name was Luke Avery. Vanished after a house party. No leads, no suspects. But tucked inside a Reddit thread was a rumor that he had been seeing a girl named Emily Langford. She disappeared right after. The internet didn't forget her face. A few photos were blurry, but it was her. Hair a little darker, face rounder, but unmistakable. She'd reinvented herself here. Different name. Different story. Smile. My breath caught. My hands were sweating. I started watching her every chance I got. Little things stood out. How she always kept her phone upside down. How she flinched when Jake raised his voice, even if it wasn't at her. How she once stared at a cop car like it might explode. But nothing hit harder than the night I finally read Jake's messages. He left his phone in the kitchen. I shouldn't have looked, I know that. But I did. There was a thread with her, mostly encrypted in voice notes and emojis. But one message made my blood run cold. The guy from the gas station saw too much. You need to talk to him tonight. Another one days later. Delete the footage. The back camera. You know which one. It didn't stop there. I checked his notes app and found a list of burner phone numbers, license plates, even addresses. And a payment tracking app with transfers to names I didn't recognize. And some clearly fake ones. Jake had been helping her cover something up. Multiple things, maybe. I didn't want to believe it. I needed it to be something else. But all the pieces were clicking together. The missing boy, Emily's new identity, the bruises, Jake's erratic behavior. Jake hadn't just fallen in love. He'd fallen into something dark, something criminal. And Emily. She wasn't the victim I thought she was. She was the one pulling the strings. The next day, I confronted him. I didn't plan it. It just came out, a whisper in the hallway while our parents were gone. I know what she's done, I said. Jake turned to me slowly like a puppet on a string. His eyes were bloodshot. He didn't speak. I saw the messages, I went on. The money. The footage. You helped her cover up something. What happened to that boy? What did you do? He blinked once. Then something behind his eyes shifted. You don't know what you're talking about, he said, his voice flat. You don't understand anything. I know she's using you, I said quietly. And I know you're scared. But this isn't love, Jake. This is. Shut up. He snapped the words like a whip. I flinched, but I didn't stop. You can't protect her forever. She'll ruin you. She already has. And then he stepped toward me. Just one step. But his face. It was empty. Not angry. Not sad. Just cold. You should have kept your mouth shut, he said. And I realized then, I wasn't just dealing with Emily. I was dealing with someone Jake became when he was with her. Someone capable of doing whatever she asked. Even if that meant hurting his own sister. It all came to a head 3 nights later. Jake had been avoiding me. Locking his door, disappearing for hours, barely speaking. He stopped eating dinner with us. When Mom asked what was wrong, he shrugged and muttered something about exams. She believed him. I didn't. I knew something was building. Pressure in the air like before a thunderstorm. I could feel it. Heavy. Waiting. That night, I waited until our parents went out to dinner. I found Jake in the garage, slumped on Dad's old tool bench, staring into space. His knuckles were bruised. His hoodie was dirty, like he'd been somewhere he shouldn't have been. Jake, I said. He didn't look up. I'm going to the police. That got his attention. He turned slowly, eyes bloodshot, jaw tight. No. You're not. I have to, I said. I know what you and Emily have done. The money, the messages, the gas station guy, Luke Avery. Don't say his name, he growled. You don't know what happened. Then tell me, I said, taking a step closer. Tell me what she made you do. Tell me what you did. He stood up so fast his chair screeched against the floor. It wasn't like that, he snapped. She didn't make me. Chose it. I chose her. He was trembling. Tears pooled at the edges of his eyes, but they didn't fall. He pressed his fists to his forehead like he was trying to squeeze the thoughts out. You don't understand, he said. If you go to the cops, if this gets out, she'll kill herself. Or worse. She said she'd disappear. That no one would ever find her again. Maybe that's what needs to happen, I whispered. He looked at me like I'd slapped him. I've done everything for her, he said, voice cracking. Everything. She needed someone and I was there. Kept her safe. I protected her. By hurting people. Yes. By helping her cover up what happened to that boy. His face twisted, as if hearing it out loud made it real. You don't get it, he said again, stepping closer. She's the only person who's ever loved me. She sees me. No, Jake, I said, backing away. She uses you. Then I said the thing I knew would push him over the edge. I already printed everything. Have screenshots. I'm going to the police tomorrow. Silence. Complete, terrifying silence. He stood there, frozen, chest rising and falling like a caged animal. His hands slowly curled into fists. And then he lunged. I didn't even have time to scream. He shoved me hard, so hard I hit the wall behind me. The impact knocked the breath from my lungs, and before I could recover, he was on me again. You ruined everything, he hissed. You stupid little. His fist connected with my side. Once. The pain exploded, white, hot, blinding. Felt something crack. Maybe more than one. I screamed, or maybe I didn't. Maybe the sound never made it past my throat. I collapsed onto the floor, gasping, arm wrapped around my ribs. And that's when I saw her. Emily. She was standing in the doorway. She wasn't shouting. She wasn't crying. She wasn't even moving. She just stood there, watching. Her eyes were calm. Calm. And I swear, God help me, I saw the corner of her mouth twitch. Smile. Almost imperceptible. Like this was exactly what she wanted. Jake turned, saw her, and just like that, the fight drained from him. His hands dropped. His breathing slowed. It was like she'd flipped a switch inside him. He looked back at me, curled on the concrete floor, shaking, wheezing, and something flickered in his eyes. Maybe guilt. Maybe shame. Maybe nothing. Why? Croaked through the pain. Jake opened his mouth, but Emily stepped forward and touched his arm. Go, she said softly. And he listened. He walked out without looking back. Emily knelt down beside me, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in her eyes. You should have left it alone, she whispered. Now look at you. Then she stood, calm as a ghost, and disappeared into the night. And I just lay there, broken and alone, wondering how my brother became a monster. And how I didn't see it coming until it was too late. The hospital smelled like bleach and disappointment. By the time I was stable enough to sit up, Jake had already been arrested. Detective Harper came back the next morning, notebook in hand, voice gentle. I told him everything, or at least enough. Enough to make sure Jake couldn't talk his way out of it. Enough to make sure they knew this wasn't just some fight between siblings. But Emily's name. That got nothing. No last name in the system. No fingerprints. No known address. Just gone. She vanished like smoke, like she was never really there. Like she planned her escape the second I hit the floor. The police promised to investigate. But I could see it in their faces. They weren't expecting to find her. Not without Jake's help, and Jake. He wasn't talking. Not even to our parents. They came to the hospital the day after the arrest. My mother looked like a ghost. Eyes hollowed out and ringed in mascara smudges. Dad hovered by the door, stiff and silent. Why didn't you come to us first? Mom asked, voice cracking. Because I knew what you'd say. 'Cause you loved her. Because deep down, you'd rather believe I was overreacting than believe Jake was capable of this. I didn't say any of that. I just looked at the bruises climbing up my side, the bandages around my ribs, and stayed quiet. They left not long after. Dad didn't say a word. The town didn't take long to pick sides. Some people offered sympathy. Others muttered behind my back, said I'd exaggerated, said I'd provoked him. A teacher told me quietly, "Boys get angry. Doesn't mean they're evil." I walked out of class that day and never came back. But the worst was the ones who pitted Jake. The ones who whispered things like, "He was such a good kid, and she must have pushed him too far," and all over a girl. Really? They didn't know about Emily. Not really. Only what the news chose to report. A violent altercation between siblings. No mention of the blackmail. No mention of a missing boy. No trace of her. She was careful. She always had been. People still looked at me like I ruined him. Like I tore down the golden boy they loved. But he ruined himself. He chose silence when he could have chosen truth. He chose her over me. And the silence, it didn't protect anyone. Didn't keep me safe. Broke my ribs. Broke my heart. Sometimes I wonder where she is now. If she's latched onto someone new. If they know what she's capable of. If they'll see through her in time. Or if they'll end up like me. Alone, broken, and left behind to carry the weight of someone else's secrets. I write everything down now. Not because I think anyone will believe me. Most of them don't. Not the teachers who said I must have misunderstood. Not the neighbors who cross the street when they see me. Not the classmates who look at me like I'm radioactive, like I blew up something sacred. But I write anyway. Because the truth deserves to live somewhere. Even if it's only on these pages. Even if it's only for me. It's taken weeks to breathe without pain. The bones are healing, they say. But no one warns you that the bruises on your spirit linger far longer than the ones on your skin. Jake hasn't said a word from lockup. No calls. No letters. Nothing. Mom visits him sometimes. Dad doesn't talk about it. They're grieving a son who's still alive. I guess in some way I am too. But the person I miss never existed, not really. I look back now and see the cracks that were always there. Jake needed to be needed. Emily knew that. She found the hole in him and poured herself into it like poison. And he let her. I don't forgive him. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I still remember the boy who stood up to bullies for me. Who built me tree forts and taught me how to throw a punch. I miss that version of him. The one who would have broken ribs to protect me. Not to silence me. That's what this was about in the end. Silence. Jake didn't hit me because I lied. He hit me because I told the truth. And the truth, it's heavy. Comes with a cost. When you speak it out loud, people don't always thank you. They call you dramatic, disloyal, destructive. Especially when the truth tears down the people they've built up in their minds. Especially when it's family. Some nights, I still wake up thinking I hear her voice. Emily's. Whispering from the shadows. Laughing somewhere behind the walls. I check the locks 3 times before I sleep. I don't know if she'll come back. Maybe she's already found someone else to puppeteer. Someone to break for her. But if she does come back, I'll be ready. I know what she is now. And more importantly, I know what I am. Not the girl who kept her head down. Not the sister who stayed quiet to keep the peace. I'm the one who told the truth. Even when it shattered everything. Even when it cost me my brother. My safety. My place in this world. And if I had to go back, if I had to choose again, I'd still open my mouth. I'd still point to the darkness. Because silence never saved anyone. He broke my ribs, but I shattered the lie. And I'd do it again.